My name is Giles Duley, and I have two great passions. One is photography, the other is food.
Fuck.
I document the impact of conflict around the world, meaning I'm often in new cities and unfamiliar countries. When I'm not taking photographs, I am on the lookout for new and exciting places to eat. Meals cooked from the soul with love and passion. But food means more to me than that. I believe I take a better photograph if I've eaten with the person first.
Food is a remedy.
It's how friendships are made.
I always say when I'm cooking, I can hear my ancestors whispering behind me.
Food is how the world connects, and how I connect to the stories I tell. I have many great childhood memories of Scotland. My mother, Flora Stewart, was proud of her Scottish roots. We used to spend summers here, where I learnt to fly fish, addressed the haggis on Burns night, danced at family ceilidhs, and discovered whiskey. But it's been a long time since I was last here. Now, with my work on hold, I saw an opportunity to reconnect with my roots. I grew up with my mother's traditional food, but I know Scotland is going through a food revolution, which I wanted to experience for myself. Fife may not be on most people's culinary to-do lists, but it's famous for some of the best produce in the world. And that's what drew one of London's up-and-coming chefs here.
But like really on a mission.
Yeah, she never stops moving.
James Ferguson worked at some of the best restaurants in London, places I'd eaten in and loved. But now, with his partner, Alethea Palmer, he'd opened the Kinnicken Inn. He saw it as an opportunity to cook the food he loved, local, seasonal, and stunningly delicious.
I mean, I'm going to cook you something on this grill today. I've bit it already, but this is just a charcoal and wood grill. My grandmother was Greek, and there's a lot of grilled food in Greece. Yeah. And then it works really well with a lot of the produce you get around here. And then everything else is literally just, we cook in pans and gas and sort of old school. I'm not really into very, very modern techniques.
James's approach to food is simple. Good quality produce, in season, and nose-to-tail cooking. From charcuterie to the most incredible pies, his passion for quality shines through, as does the time and care spent on reintroducing traditional techniques.
Yeah, so we base everything around the produce here, which is why we moved up here, I think, where I can give you a plate of food and I can say that everything's come from within a radius and it's of the area, you know. And I like the idea of having really good produce that has that flavour. You don't have to do as much with it.
No. This philosophy is in keeping with the slow food movement. Born in Italy in 1989, the movement aims to protect local, traditional foods in the face of fast food and encourage people to reconnect with the ingredients they cook with.
So, what we're going to cook is, so this is the douya. And we make this ourselves. So this is made with the fatty end of the belly that you can't really use for pancetta or bacon, and it's very traditionally made, this one. So it's the mint and it's hot smoked paprika and chili, and I put garlic in it, which isn't traditional, but I like the garlic in it. And it's what you call a fresh salami. If you see it, it's dead squashy.
It's one of my favourite things in the world.
You know, do you, won't you? Because you like Southern Italian food. So
I have it on toast and just...
Yeah, exactly. And we like to do it on toast as well sometimes, just as a snack.
Or make a pasta.
It's nice with Friday. Yeah. It's great with pasta. Yeah. It's really good with shellfish, with clams and mussels and that sort of thing. It does just melt and it's pure fat. So we're going to put a ton of this. And then I've got this lovely bit of turbot, which fish like turbot goes really well with
the strong
very
flavours.
Fatty pork, strong flavours. It holds up. It's robust.
Yeah. Is that local?
This is local. So this is caught in Peterhead, which is about an hour, 2 hours drive up the way.
When you're cooking stuff like this, it just feels good cooking it. You just see all that oil.
You see all the smell and things coming from it, And I think, like, using your senses when cooking's really good. I don't get the same senses as like, if I'm cooking on wood and if I'm melting something that I've made that I know's right, and I can smell it and I can taste it, and then that's exciting for me. Like,
it should be about feel and smell and taste and knowing.
No, totally, yeah.
Not, you put it in sous vide for like 1 minute 32 seconds.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is like, I mean, I don't know how long
and it's
this is gonna
unpredictable.
take.
Each fish is different.
It's unpredictable. You have to know when it's cooked, So I'm going to put some lentils in there.
Amazing.
And they're going to just
They've been cooked in stock and...
They've been cooked with white vegetables, so onions, leeks, celery, a bit of garlic, a bit of thyme. It's more like, what have we got, and let's cook with it. And that's about that. What more do you want, really?
Fucking amazing.
Oh, sorry. I think I ought to look at this about when I serve it to customers and maybe cut the leeks up more. It's quite good to sit down and eat your own food sometimes,
Like, it's completely unpractical.
Yeah, this is an impractical meal.
But you know what? That's what I love about food, though, because food should be messy and food should be stuff you dig into. And
yeah, it's good when there's silence because it means that something's good.
Fucking great.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to what you said.
Pig,
no, I was just eating that. You were talking away, covering up for me what I'm doing. So when they edit it all together, it looks like we had a conversation.
Yeah,
and I'm just pigging away.
Yeah, nice.
That was fucking delicious.
Yeah.
So I just literally was like wolfing that down.
Well, that's good. It's good that I wolf down things normally, but I'm trying to look more restrained. And I feel like the food, I think it was a good cook in London, but I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better because I don't feel that pressure.
No, you'd be led by the produce.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I feel much more confident in my own cooking now. And I feel less, I used to get upset when someone complained.
But I don't know what it's like in the chef world, but in the photography world, people's mental health is not great.
Well, if you do any research, that mental health, especially amongst men in the chef industry, is a really important topic at the moment because it can be heavy on bullying. There's no getting away from that. I mean, it can bring out the worst side of the sort of human nature, with the stress and with abuse. And then with working long hours, you've got nothing else to your life.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen people have complete mental breakdowns in kitchens. And back in the day, 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, and then you're being yelled at, and you're in a hot, dangerous environment, and you've got nothing much to your life. You can quickly get into really bad mental state. And I think that it's getting addressed more now, thankfully, but especially men bottle it in and they don't say anything, and then something tragic could happen, you know. But some men will see that and they think, that's what I want. There's power in that. And it's well,
it's the same. The photography world, the fashion world was just. I literally walked away from it one day because I turned around and was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I just said, that's it, I'm fucking done. It all hit me.
Yeah.
But I had started behaving that way. I had started shouting at my assistants.
Yeah.
And I was getting fucked up every night and doing drugs and hard and going at it. And I thought it had to be that intense and that extreme to be who I wanted to be, because I looked at the people above me and they were like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be them.
Yeah.
And you're suddenly go, what the fuck am I doing?
I have to say, it was just this one moment in the kitchen where I wasn't even about to tell this kid off, but he must have been about 18. He was in the kitchen on the cold section. I was running around doing things, looking angry, and I looked at him, and I was staring at him because I was watching that he was going to do something right. I was looking at him like that, and I looked pretty. I think I probably looked. I had this shaved head.
No, you're doing it right now. I'm fucking
scared.
Yeah.
And I was looking at him, and he kept looking up at me, looking nervous. And then he just broke down crying. And then he sort of ran out of the kitchen. And then I went home and I thought about it. I thought, my God, what sort of environment is it when? And I was quite young. I was 27 or something at the time, where I'm staring at this poor kid. He's coming into work. He's obviously petrified to work. He's shaking everything he's doing. And then I'm staring at him like someone in a flipping film or something, like a nutter. And then he's just crying. And is that why I became a chef? And that definitely started my thought of why am I doing this as a career? Am I interested in carrying on down this route and going for Michelin stars? I could have done that. Or do I want to just cook and enjoy it now It's nothing about like ego or nothing. It's just about like trying to make things with like love and hope that people sort of enjoy it and take away that sort of edge to it. Certainly.
And food is about nurture. Food is about love.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, food is love. Like when you cook something and you care about what you're doing, you cook it with so much love. It's almost like this is gonna sound a bit soppy. It's almost like I love you, you know, or you know, I'm wanting to nourish you with something that you're going to really enjoy. I mean, there's not much things give pleasure like a really good meal, is there?
But trust me, after this, I love you too. So.
I love you as well. Should we go upstairs now?
I need to bring more lentils.
Yeah, just for the lentils, don't worry.
For me, great food is food cooked with love. And that's exactly what they are doing at Soul Food Sisters, a non-profit, female-led, multicultural cafe in Glasgow. Jamelia Siag is one of the founders of Soul Food Sisters. Trained as a psychologist, she feels food is the key to good mental health. She came to cooking later in life, inspired by her mother's Algerian recipes.
It's the best way of doing it.
We decided to show you how to make them hajib. Hajib, which is Algerian. I'm from Algiers, yeah. But I'm originally from Berber Kabyle. So in my place, they do the couscous. All the women stay together and they do the couscous together. I like this technique of preparing the couscous. Then it's not only this, but they sing all together. They are all, you see poetry there? It's just amazing. This is what I like from my childhood and my country, of course. It's really nice to see everyone like happy and sharing. They eat all together. See, we miss a lot this kind of activities. So you see, it was watery.
Okay, yeah.
Now we can just bring it together. Yeah. So it has to be soft, and you have to see this kind of balls.
Yes.
It has to be ready. Okay, so we can.
And you learned this from your mother?
I just have these nice childhood memories where my mom, she was sitting and making the couscous. Me jumping to the kitchen with no experience in the kitchen, but really I love it. As a former clinical psychologist, I think my job is just offering this opportunity to bring everyone together, just give a chance to women to speak, to feel safe in safe atmosphere, of course.
This is really relaxing just watching you. It's really like therapy. I can just watch these things all day.
So, and we are going to spread a bit of this magic sauce inside. And this is the best seller in Glasgow, to be honest. People, they love it. And you are going to close, okay? And you have got your first mahajib here. And we are going to use our tajin. Voila. So we can do another one. There is another name which is msimmen, and we ate it in breakfast, yeah? And we said it's not about the food, it's about connection. So what are you going to make today, Fiola?
I'm going to make a caponata di melanzane, which is a Sicilian dish that is made with just very simple ingredient, which is aubergine, celery, capers, and olives. That's it. So, but someone told me that you want to make that, not me.
No, I'm learning. I'm here to watch. I'm able to do something later. No, I'm here to learn. No, because you are, you know what you're doing. You're the chef.
I think the identity is preserved in the food. Yeah. That's why I'm here actually in Soul Food Sisters as well, because we share identity, we share recipe, but it's also, I don't know, our conversation across our memory come across the food.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But I think food is the greatest storyteller. You know, I work as a photographer, but increasingly I think food is a better way to tell a story.
It is. When you get out from the sea and you have a nice sweet peach, for example, and you have the salt of the sea salt and then the sweet of the fruit, and I think it's the base of this, sweet and sour.
That's the best description I've ever heard of this, because I love this dish. But that's so beautiful, like a peach when you come out of the water.
Yeah, and this sensation, I think it's a childhood stuff. we're gonna just peeling the aubergine as well. You can use a peeler, but I want to, like my grandmother used to have one knife for everything. It's nothing, right?
So actually, I'm really learning right now from your grandmother.
Yes.
Beautiful.
My beautiful grandmother.
Nonna.
La nonna Barbara.
Nonna Barbara.
She was amazing. It's my grandmother. And she actually the one that passed me the passion of food. I think that's why I'm a chef now.
Yeah. I love the fact from years from now, I'll be making this dish and everyone will be like, oh, where did you learn that when you were in Sicily, when you were there? I was like, no, I was in Glasgow.
Indeed, it's cool.
So now every time I make this, I remember you, I remember Nonna Barbara, I remember
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say when I'm cooking, I can hear my ancestors whispering behind me.
So this is on the top of
Yeah,
salad?
it's just the skin of the aubergine.
We do.
No,
We do it.
Is that
Exactly.
something, I love how everything connects.
Yeah. We have got like a variety, South Europe, North African and Middle Eastern, so it will be a nice menu.
I love it when you bring things together from different places, and that's one of the things I love about Sicily is the culturally, it's like Arabic, it's Moorish, Spanish. I realized actually what connects everywhere that I love is olive trees.
Oh.
And I think I'm happiest when I'm in the shade of an olive tree.
Oh.
Yes. With a gin or a glass of red.
Exactly.
It's clear that this is more than a cafe. It's a community where the women come together to cook, share ideas, and provide support for refugees and asylum seekers who have recently arrived in Glasgow. For me, this is the power of food. It brings people together.
You know, it's making me really emotional because I spend my life in the places that people are fleeing from. I mean, that's my job. You know, I spend most of my life in war zones, and I see people who are desperate, who don't want to leave their homes, who are terrified to leave their homes, who are crying to leave their homes. And that sounds silly, but it touches me a lot that knowing they're coming to people like you. And I see it from the other side. I see why they run.
Yeah.
I know why they run, and it really touches my heart that people like you are there for them.
Part of what we are in our plans for the future is about bringing people in for workshops, what you can do with £3 worth of vegetables. It's also cultural as well, because, you know, people are accessing food banks. It's just an unfortunate sign of the times. But we know that not everybody likes potatoes and sausage rolls.
Yeah.
You know, staple foods could be rice, could be pasta, could be... So we want to ensure that it's culturally aware as well, that people can cook a taste of what is their home, not mine, yours, Jamila's. It's a taste of their home, because then what they're doing, they're passing that to their children.
I think food banks are fantastic and they fill a role.
Absolutely.
But if somebody's using them for years, you've taken away their dignity, and the dignity of cooking your own food, and as you said, the food that you want to cook, the food that has your story. You're using somebody else's story, not your own.
You know, from word go, when we started to feed the asylum seekers in some of the hotels in Glasgow, was we want them to open that container and smell home and know that it's a subliminal message. Somebody does care for you.
Eat.
Just eat and enjoy.
Okay.
Cheers.
Soup first. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
The soup, ladies, is cold, but that's fine. We didn't reheat the soup.
It's
It's a juice. That's fine. Big energy when you.
Yeah.
You're all talking, I'm just quietly eating. I'm in my own little world.
oh, it's beautiful.
After my conversations at Soul Food Sisters, I wanted to learn more about food insecurity in Scotland. I'd heard many are going hungry, and almost 1 in 10 adults here worry about running out of food. To understand the scale of the problem, I joined a team as they did their rounds collecting and distributing food in Glasgow. Supermarkets and other producers give unused stock, which is distributed to food banks across the city. During the lockdown, Scotland's independent food banks saw demand for their services double. In Glasgow alone, there are over 50 organisations providing food. FareShare, a national network of charitable food distributors, has distributed over 1,400 tonnes of food, the equivalent of almost 3.5 million meals between March and June 2020. I've spent years documenting similar stories around the world, but didn't expect to be doing the same in Scotland. But statistics only tell one part of the story. Each number is a family or individual going hungry. I met up with Mel Whitley, who runs Help for the Homeless.
This kind of crisis that's going on, there's a lot of debate about food insecurity and what it means. You must hear stories of children going hungry and...
All the time. There's, as I said, with lots of schools phoning, 3 in the last week of children who have asked their teachers to help because they've no food in their houses. This is 3 different schools this has happened with this week, where we've had to go and do an emergency food parcel. A 13-year-old was almost passing out in the school, and his teacher sat him down and went, "What's the matter? Are you okay?" And he said, "I'm just hungry, I'm hungry." And he gave him a drink of orange juice. He says, "Drink that, get some sugar in you just now, I'll go and cook you something." And the teacher went and cooked him something. And then the teacher went out and bought shopping and gave it to him to take home. And since then, in that particular school, we've now put a community cupboard in where it's full of food. But we've done that in several schools. So people can pupils, parents can come up to the school, get food. And if people feel embarrassed by going to the school to get food, we'll deliver it to their door. They don't have to be embarrassed. So it just arrives as a food delivery.
And I suppose sometimes the children are worried about getting their parents in trouble? Or?
Absolutely. There was another girl in another school, that was her concern. She said to their teacher, it was her pastoral care teacher, "I don't want to get my mother in trouble. But we haven't eaten for 3 days and there's no food in our house. And my little brother's hungry and I'm hungry." It's understanding why that's happening. Why is this so bad? Mental health, your mental health, if you cannot feed your child, must be in the toilet. You just feel terrible. So I thought, well, I don't want them to worry about that. So we literally took tons of food down, went and bought 50 quid's worth of meat to put in their freezer, last them a week or 2. And I went to the school with it because I didn't want to know who the people were, because it's nothing to do with us. So I said, "Look, can you distribute and give this food?" "Oh, it's far too much for one family." I went, No, I want to fill their house with food. I don't want them to think about it anymore. And if they need anything else, just phone me. So we've got loads of fresh fruit and vegetables as well. And they said, "Well, we've got quite a few families that are really struggling." And I went, "Well, let us know and we'll see what we can do."
And I think that's what would shock a lot of people, is that this is families where they're working.
Yeah, well, working families are the biggest issue right now, because you can't live on 80% of your wage when you have 100% of your bills and you live to your means and you have the same, if not more bills than you had before, because you're spending more time at home.
Yeah.
Your kids are at home. People can't afford it. They can't afford to live on 80% of their income. It's not doable in most cases. This is why we're seeing the problems we're seeing. This is why kids are going to teachers and asking for food, because they're starving. It should not be happening. And we shouldn't be needed, but we are. The volume of the scale of this, and I'm just talking about a very small area in one city. This must be huge across the country, it must be massive.
While in Scotland, I wanted to meet up with my dear friend Caius Bancoli, one of the trio that make up the Young Fathers. At a time when music is increasingly banal and formulaic, the Young Fathers are cutting their own path with political, raw, vibrant music that connects to their experiences growing up in Scotland and their multicultural roots. If there is one band you want to see live, it's the Young Fathers.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
I'm great. Come on in, mate. Come on in. It's not glamorous in here, apologies, but take a seat wherever. Sit here.
It's like COVID greeting.
But yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
This used to be an old brothel. So like there's a bathroom around the corner that has like mirrors on the ceilings. There's like hideout spaces that you can run to just in case the police like raids the place. So like there's secret passageways that you pull through on the drawers upstairs. And it kind of makes sense because it's dead, you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Creepy makes sense though, because like
Nobody can hear you scream.
No one can literally hear you screaming. No one can hear you scream at all. So it's a vibe. It's a vibe.
Man.
So how was Glasgow?
It was good. We're just there for a little while. We're just doing this thing on trying to understand food insecurity and the fact that kids are going hungry and you know.
Have you been in places where there's like been hit with famine and stuff like that?
I've documented so much famine and hunger in the world, you know, from South Sudan to Bangladesh, and there it's caused because of war or because of natural disaster. One of the worst things I ever saw was, South Sudan many years ago. And I always remember there's one photograph I've got of this old man, and he had this tin in front of him. He's like sat on the floor, and he was just, you know, skin and bones. And he had it was like a metal bowl, and the 3 tiny pieces of bread in it. And just, it was the first time I really saw somebody starving to death. And the time when you feel the most like I shouldn't be here. Like I'm just gonna go back to my hotel tonight. I'm gonna eat some food, and like, do I bring him some food? But there's thousands of people like him. And that hits home.
It's wild to me, and you're right. Like, even when I'm home, back in Nigeria and stuff like that, I see the resilience and how people, like, either you're going to like a farm to pick your chicken, and that chicken you're gonna feed for a couple of days to get it fat in your house, and then you kill it, and then you eat it, and then like you share it with your neighbors, and that chicken is like not just for you, but it's for your neighbors downstairs and your neighbors around the corner. And then like I'm out here back in Edinburgh, and I'm going to like nice restaurants. Things are just like, or you go to one of these like buffet things, and like all the food is going to waste. It's like, oh, like there's food in abundance here, so technically there shouldn't be anybody who's going hungry.
So you have to completely break down the system, but you have to change people's habits. Right. And unfortunately, I'm the same. I would expect to go and have an avocado, you know, in December.
Why is it always avocado? Look at us, middle class motherfuckers talking about avocado. What the hell, man?
Okay, let's go back to prawns. Let's pick on the prawn sandwich. So you can't expect every time you go into a garage, anywhere, any garage in this country, if I'm like, you know, driving with someone, they pop in, I'll say, pick me up a prawn sandwich and a pack of crisps. But my expectation is I want a tuna sandwich, I want a prawn sandwich. And I would be surprised if any shop, any garage didn't have that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I've seen in places around the world that I'm starting to see, you know, in this country, and there's no reason for it. There's no reason apart from greed.
Yeah, that's how I normally try to make sense of stuff, is to figure out whose pocket is being affected, make sense of a lot of things, like even the times that we're in right now.
Yeah.
We continued our conversation over lunch at the Gardeners Cottage, where Chef Dale Maley cooked some incredible traditional food using new techniques. Cullen skink, haggis scotched egg, and his incredible hare pie.
But I don't think I appreciated growing up my mum's food as being traditional. She was, you know, suet puddings, kedgeree, all those kind of great roly-poly pudding, you know, all those things. But and it's more recently I realised that is my food story, that is my heritage. Yeah. But it wasn't, growing up, I don't think I appreciated it as that.
Ooh, look at it, you hear that?
Shall we tell you what you've got?
Yeah, please.
From the borders, the hares are shot wild. It's got lots of red wine in it. This is the loin of the hare, so we put all the kind of offcuts, I suppose, into the pie, and then this is the loin. It's got a nice wild mushroom hazelnut sauce. These are snowball turnips, leeks, cooked in local cider and butter.
So this you smoked yourself?
Yeah, so we smoked this morning.
And what are you smoking it over?
This is whiskey barrels, basically. So this is trout. So these are sprats.
Yeah.
And you've got fried fish.
That was really good.
You feel like you found your voice in your food? You're like what you want to do?
I kind of get the impression that you never find your, because we
always evolving and
constantly. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the exciting thing about the industry and the career is you change it constantly. You're not stuck in one genre. You can constantly change it up.
But it's like you with different albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you're not going to do the same thing each album. It evolves, and it's not necessarily better or it's just part of the process.
I guess the excitement goes in trying new things. Like the repetition of just doing the same thing will just be boring. So you have to find the excitement in what you do. And I guess that's what's happening here with the smokehouse, with finding new ways of like getting food to people and people doing home dining and like engaging with people in different ways. So
yeah, and I think the core is, I mean, we love food, I'm sure you love music. I mean, that's we don't really mind the way it arrives or what way it is.
That's the core of it.
We just enjoy food.
So where does this hair come from?
So it's from Burnside, Rutherford Estate down in the Borders.
Have you had hair before?
No, but it's so tasty.
This is amazing.
Great. That was
amazing.
Really great.
Would you think of this as Scottish food?
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah, I would. I think the smoked element is something that for me feels very Scottish, I suppose, in with whiskies and that sort of, you know, peaty flavours are feel pretty damn Scottish to me.
Yeah, and it's seasonal and it's local, so
yeah,
that almost by definition makes it that way, doesn't it?
I got it from Scotland.
Excuse the red wine in the hair.
Yeah.
It's such a sad thing though to see so many places now shut, because food is just such a part of life.
We're just talking about how communal it is.
Yeah.
It's like it's just the best way of bringing people together. And if you're thinking about mental health and you're thinking about the effects on this current times and how it's affecting people, food is a remedy.
Yeah, it's a remedy, and mental health is a really big thing at the moment. I think a lot of people are really, really struggling.
Yeah.
You know, me myself, you know, I live on my own, so when lockdown happens, suddenly you're completely on your own. I can't see my friends. You know, you lose all contact with everyone, and that's really hard.
Just like you, I was by myself the whole time, just staying in the house. I lived by myself. And then, because my brothers and my sisters and stuff, they all have partners. They all have children now. I'm the only one. No wonder my mom is saying, when are you going to have your child? But my dad will phone me. And he was like, you're the only one who doesn't have anybody. Are you going to find somebody? I'm like, well, it's hard now. And then he would just phone me and he's like, he would just say this is our phone call. Ring, ring. Oh, hi Dad. How are you? I'm good. Have you eaten? Yeah, I've had some food. Are you drinking plenty of water? I'm trying. Okay, bye-bye. That's our conversations. But like he phoned majority of the times every day to say those like 5 sentences.
Yeah, he's obviously saying a lot more, he just can't say it necessarily.
You can't. It's like he's just reaching out. But I still have that weird like stigma because personally I've gone through a roller coaster of shit emotionally and mentally. But like that African kind of stigma about mental health is still like tattooed in me, and I feel like I'm still not able to like.
Is it almost seen like a weakness?
Yeah.
Because I think I think also just even my parents' generation, because they come, you know, my parents were very old when they had me, so they come from quite a, you know, the sort of 1930s, 1940s generation, and there's still that sense of pull yourself together and be strong, be strong, you know. My late 20s, I had a complete meltdown. And I mean, I came to the almost the end of, you know, I didn't want to live so close to just ending everything. And the battles that I had then, which were a good 5 years where I just couldn't work, I just lost everything. So much harder than getting injured and blown up. Like physically getting injured, losing my legs and my arm, everyone's like, how do you cope with that? And I said, the harder thing was coping with my depression and my breakdown. It was way harder. But the thing is, you get much more support when you get a physical injury because everyone can see it, everyone wants to say, are you okay? And it's something people know how to deal with. I still don't really speak about what I went through when I was depressed and that low point, but that was far, far, far harder.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting emotional now, so.
I love you. I really did.
That evening, I went to eat at the Little Chartroom. There are many women at the forefront of this new wave of Scottish cooking, such as Roberta, who with her husband Sean runs the restaurant.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Nice
Giles.
to meet you. Giles,
You all right?
Sean, how are you?
It's all the new. You're right. Really nice to meet you. Very great.
Like the Gardeners Cottage, Little Chartroom is one of Scotland's great new restaurants that are more intimate, often run by couples who are driven by passion rather than profit.
So that's venison.
Lovely venison, roe deer, which is my favourite kind to use. Just it's so tender. Also very local. It's just from outside Linlithgow, which is just about a 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
So I've also, serving alongside the venison, I've got some amazing wild mushrooms. Again, we have a fantastic forager who comes in sort of twice a week. He'll send me a wee text with everything that he's got, and then I'll pick out what I want, and then he comes in the next day, and yeah, I've got some chipping funnel mushrooms.
Yeah. And do you have a lot of memories of your own, like, food childhood?
I grew up in the East Coast, but we did a lot of sailing, my family. My dad still has a boat, actually. And a lot of our holidays were sailing around the different isles on the West Coast. So many fantastic memories of sailing somewhere, anchor down, get in the dinghy, go ashore, and go into the local sort of, restaurant, pub, whatever, and just getting pints of prawns, just scallops, and meat, just great. And that's the wonderful memories that I've got, as a child.
My mum was, from Scotland, and she's no longer with us, but I had some childhood, like, the huge scallops, the amazing langoustines, and all this is just incredible food. And I don't remember like complex spicing and sauces. No, I just remember the simplest
food done with, maybe just a pint of prawns with a wedge of lemon. This is what I would cook at home.
But it takes a confidence to reach a point when you can, reach a level.
Yeah.
But still keep it simple.
Yeah.
What's in it?
At the base of it, we've got some braised venison haunch, a little bit of celeriac mixed through that, and then some caramelised onions. And then top, there's some pheasant leg meat, like the thighs, mixed with some chicken mousse, and then just all get wrapped in pancetta and then baked.
So, like, when you're talking about, like, simple food, just...
kind of simple.
Wow.
Okay.
Does it look okay?
How big a slice would you like?
Really big.
Yeah, okay. This is good, happy. I'll go in.
Well, if you half that, then it feels like I'm being vaguely gentlemanly.
So, excuse my fingers.
Oh, God.
There we go. Sean, you'll probably take that as well, won't you? Yeah.
I'm here for the food.
Yes.
That is incredible.
Again, venison saddle, nice carrot puree, and then just celebrate some lovely vegetables. It means quite simple: parsnips, carrots, celeriac, and beautiful. Also, wee baby turnips actually, and a little mix of wild mushrooms there as well.
Amazing.
We kind of moved past the really trying all these weird, crazy things out, and we're actually going into the old school.
Because it's funny, because when the whole kind of movement of like nose to tail cooking started coming back, my mum was like, well, that's what we did. I think this is what my mum would have cooked in the 1930s in a stately home, would have been these kind of pies and this sort of stuff. So, do you think women in the kitchen cook differently to men? Because in photography, I was to choose 4 or 5 photographers who cover conflict, they would be women.
Yeah.
And it's a different sensitivity, a different way of approaching it. Would you say that's the same in food?
I think all the kitchens I worked in from the start were busy, quite aggressive, in a not in a physical manner, just in that shouty manner and macho, and you just think, well, that's how it's meant to be, and so you're going to behave the same way. So you're going to treat those people that are coming up the same way because, well, I got treated like that.
Yeah.
And it's not until us opening up our own restaurant taught me a lot about the kitchens that I used to work in, and I used to think that was the best way to do things, and that was the way that things were meant to be. But I'm so much happier in this job.
Well, growing up, through the 90s, food was dominated by very macho, alpha male men, and it was all like shouting and being loud and flash and fire and all those things. And I just think, there must be a lot of people that just didn't go into food because that's what the world was, and it just was intimidating and And so it's really lovely to see the way things are developing now, where I don't think it is like that anymore.
Yeah. So focus on the food.
Yeah, and the food is just, the food will only get better, I think, when you've got a happy, good team.
Best pie
Yay.
ever. No, I mean, honestly, it is just, it's perfection.
Oh, thank you.
It's like something like that pie. That to me is everything that is Scottish food, there's tradition, there's history, and because that has been lost in many ways.
Yeah.
And people like you are bringing that back, and then that gets passed on, and kind of that link is put back.
Yeah.
So it's hugely important you teach it, and it's hugely important you teach me how to make it.
It's very easy.
Like, for me, the best restaurants are where I feel like I've gone in someone's home. That sense of love for the food, thing that's not a business, but it's deeper than that. You know, food is something that is community.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I went back to Fife to meet some of the producers James works with. Some of them, including his butcher, are based at the Bauer House Farmers Market. It's managed by the same estate that owns the Kinnicken Inn. This innovative project houses food and drink producers, meaning customers can link directly to the source of local produce. Could this be the answer to food insecurity?
I'm just kind of...
Excuse the mess.
No, I'm just curious about vinyl and beer.
Oh, well, you've come to the right place then. It's just, so we've got a small organic brewery over here and a record shop.
This is like my home, but I'm getting sidetracked by everything, and yeah, this place is great. These are natural wines?
Yeah, all natural or organic or biodynamic.
That's pretty much like inside my brain right now. It's pretty much like that, so that's perfect. And I can't read a word of it.
It's really good.
Fantastic. Okay, let's go with this one. This is a new one for me.
Have you met Andrew, who's based here?
Andrew, no.
Okay, so whenever Lucy speaks to Andrew, she wants to go on marches, demos, and break the system.
He runs a mill next door.
Okay. Is he like the Che Guevara of baking?
He is. Well, yeah, I think he refers to himself as
when he was young, he spent a lot of time in Russia.
The Godfather.
Yeah. He's amazing.
He's incredible.
Andrew Whitley is a legend. When he opened the Village Bakery in the 1970s, he sparked the artisan baking revival, reintroducing sourdough to Britain. And his seminal book, Bread Matters, is credited with changing the way we think about bread.
I hear you are the revolutionary of bread making.
I don't know who's said that, but...
Well, these two. It's pretty obvious. These two have been bigging you up.
Funnily enough, I've... in the middle of the day.
Saying that you make them want to be revolutionaries.
It is a completely benign, non-violent revolution we're trying to effect in the way in which wheat and other cereals are grown in Scotland, and more generally in the UK, to take them out of the commodity market and make them suitable for supporting health and nourishment in the local population. Because I didn't realise this until I came to live in Scotland 10 years ago, but Scotland grows about 1 million tonnes of wheat every year and uses virtually none to make any of its own bread. So it imports the grain, the flour, and sometimes even the baked bread from across the border. And of course, this is lamentable for food security, and it doesn't need to be like this. It didn't used to be like this. And we think this is unfair, wrong. It's a historic injustice, and we want to do something about it. Because at the moment, farmers are in a total arm lock. They have to absolutely trash their equipment and their land in order to achieve the yields, which just about enable them to break even in a typical year growing grain for what? For cheap booze or animal feed, or even worse, bioethanol to go into feeding cars rather than people. And for me, that is a scandal.
You have an interest in food being accessible to all.
I do, yeah.
You know, make sourdough, post it on Instagram. I don't mean to be like funny, but it feels like a sort of something that's now so associated with a sort of middle class. Is it something you feel strange about? The way it's become associated now, that making sourdough is this kind of middle class activity?
I'd start by saying that sourdough was the way in which millions, tens of millions of illiterate and innumerate people have been making bread in the world since humanity started making bread as we know it about 10 to 15,000 years ago. So it is the bread of the people, and the idea that it is somehow a middle class or even hipster preserve is ridiculous. And so this issue is not just about sourdough. Sourdough is important because it's the simplest and the most complete way of making available the ingredients, the nutrients in wholemeal flour, in wheat. If you take those out at the milling stage, which industrialized flour does, it doesn't do anything like nutritionally what whole grain bread does when you leave those ingredients together in the same flour and make them into bread properly.
But to readdress that balance, if we wanted to readdress it, is it education? Is it supply? Is it accessibility? How do we readdress that system that's been built up?
Well, we're currently doing a project called Flour to the People to find ways of engaging with community groups, community food hubs, and saying, how about we introduce you to our flour and a way to make it into good bread, and arrange a system of delivery and distribution accessible to anybody who would like to eat less but better of something, in which everybody in the system has been fairly paid, from the farmer who's no longer on the commoditized treadmill, through to the baker who doesn't have to put additives into it, through to the end user who is being respected.
You know, we're talking about the system of getting flour to them, which is fantastic, but how do you go from that to actually making the bread? How are you educating people?
Well, we've made a video.
Okay, you're embracing the social media.
How to do it, absolutely. This has gone out to community food hubs. So we've sent the video out, and then we gather them together on Zoom and have a Q&A, and we send out a pack of flour, some bread made with that flour, and they can taste what it's going to be like. This is the pivotal moment. We need to change the way we do our food system. And one of the most obvious ways is to change for the better the way we do our bread, from soil to slice.
Yeah.
Andrew wants to create a cheap and sustainable bread supply throughout Scotland, and is working with the charity Scotland the Bread to supply nutrient-rich flour and free tutorials on bread making. Sophie Cumber is another English producer who moved here from London to do what she loves.
Hello.
Hi,
You're
Giles.
right.
How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I got really sidetracked. I mean, I came to see, I didn't realise there was I was going to be buying vinyl and rum and whiskey.
These things happen when you come to Bauhaus.
Wine and spaghetti squash. And I just came to get some meat. I'll be honest, I love food, I love meat. I don't think I've ever met a butcher who's a woman.
I started in butchery about 8 years ago, and then it was definitely people walking into the butchery and just literally being like, what are you doing here? Oh, you're a woman in this really man's world, which I think it can feel like quite a lot. But I think now definitely there's loads more women in the industry.
So, what is this?
So this is actually the shoulder blade of a cow. I work just with whole carcasses, so I just get whole animals directly from Balcaski estate.
Yep.
At the moment I'm doing like a kind of box scheme, trying to make sure that everything in a side goes. So I basically split down the whole side, that's what I've been doing yesterday and today, into all these different cuts, trying to get more kind of steak cuts that are a bit more unusual.
Because I think most people could probably name 5 cuts. Yeah, like 5 or 6. And how many cuts would there be? 40. That's crazy.
People hadn't really thought about how you can use these little cuts. So this is a muscle that comes out of the forequarter. So I literally just took it off out of there. And it's beautiful. It's an amazing steak cut. So getting cuts like that is really important for me because I'm only ever going to have a certain amount of fillet and ribeye and sirloin.
Yeah.
So I am probably opposite to most butchers, that when people come in, I try and move them away from those prime cuts to introduce them to something else, which is still a fantastic steak. So I would just do like really nice in a pan, just get a nice colour, keep turning it, maybe baste it a little bit as well, because it's actually quite lean.
So remind me the name of this one?
Terrace Major.
Terrace Major.
Yeah.
I'm going to try some Terrace Major.
I would go for that.
Yeah. What else is interesting?
Let's see.
Can I come in and...
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Come have a look. Lamb and beef is what I'm getting from Balcaski estate.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of primary.
I was going to say your bread and butter, but it's not your bread and butter.
It's not quite my bread and butter.
It's lamb and beef.
I also get this really great mutton.
And do you have lamb fat?
I can certainly get you lamb fat.
Can I get some lamb fat for my
fried
fried eggs?
Can. Yeah. And do you want a couple of kidneys as well?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen anyone grab my breakfast like that before.
Okay. So that'll be great fat for doing your eggs in. And the shin, that's kind of your knuckle end of the shin there, but that's going to add.
That's going to be beautiful.
Kind of flavour in. Do you want me to?
So how would you prepare those?
So you basically want to cut your kidney in half.
Delicious.
Oh God, they do look good. And then you take out this little sinewy bit.
I'm just going to have those on toast.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe do the toast with some lamb fat. Sorry, I'm getting now.
Okay,
I'm going into.
Now you're making me hungry as well.
Yeah, like almost like fried, not quite fried bread, but a little bit of lamb fat, some kidneys.
Right.
Okay, load me up. My bag of goodies.
There we go.
With quite a few bottles of wine.
Finally, I visited a remote restaurant on Scotland's west coast that perfectly represents modern Scottish cooking. Inva is a personal project from chef Pam Brunton and her partner Rob Latimer. Set on the shores of Loch Fyne, it opened in 2015, quickly establishing itself as one of the most exciting new restaurants in Scotland and listed among the top restaurants in the UK. Using the very best local, wild and farmed ingredients, it offers a contemporary take on traditional and forgotten Scottish dishes.
And what made you come here?
It's because it's beautiful, because Rob and I had a variety of things we wanted to do with the restaurant. Rob has 2 art degrees. He's not, neither of us are really business people. We didn't step into this thing thinking, let's make a quick buck. We both lived in London for 10.5 years, and we wanted to set up a life somewhere where we could connect ourselves to it and to the things that we were doing.
Yeah.
To kind of be part of a community, to create a community, to contribute to a community, and to feel more rooted than you do in big cities. And to bring back skills that we'd learned elsewhere to where we were born and brought up.
Yeah.
There's a big part of me just doesn't care anymore what the rest of the world thinks. Like, I have my own value system now, and there's just been so many more acute things to worry about, like, is the business going to survive? Are the staff happy? I've never seen mental health like it this year, and feeling that you can contribute to a positive working environment. What I feel happy and satisfied about is hearing laughter coming from the kitchen, in knowing that everything's delicious, in knowing that I have room in my kitchen to allow Alison to make charcuterie that is valued and that we are delighted to serve, to know that I have a place in the menu where we can put fees, cheese in the breakfast baskets, that I know creative ways of using a harvest of underripe grapes and therefore taking 20 kilos of grapes and putting a financial value on it for our neighbours. These things matter. They give me connection, they give me a sense of place, they give me a feeling of being in the right place at the right time, content in myself. The rest of it just doesn't matter anymore. Well, I tell you the stories of everything that's on this table.
I would love that. Okay.
So these are oysters from Loch Creren, which is the next loch up, more or less. And then this is a hot sauce that we made ourselves from some organic cayenne chilies from a farm where our kitchen assistant Craig used to work.
Okay, little Tabasco-y type.
Yeah. You can have some venison salami, which is made in-house by, we have a very talented young charcuterie at the other side of those kitchen doors, Alison.
Okay.
And she made the venison salami from a local deer.
Great.
And then you got the breakfast cheese that we serve in the picnic baskets. It's made just a few miles down the loch there by a woman called Fee from her herd of Jersey cows. But it's not a herd, there's 3 Jersey cows. She was given Jersey cows for her birthday about 10 years ago, and she had to work out what to do with the milk. So now she's got cheese, and they're even local grapes.
Really?
From a Victorian greenhouse and an old estate house at Arkinglass. So this is Andrew's flour.
Okay.
Scotland, the bread flour. Andrew
Right.
Whitley. I know Andrew from charity days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I called him the Che Guevara of bread making.
He's the least likely Che Guevara you've ever met.
So who influenced you though? Where did you start your kind of food journey, your culinary journey?
I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a chef and that cooking was going to define me or help me articulate who I was. It was just just something that happened.
Yeah. No, but I think it's the same with me, photography. People are always like, when did you become a photographer? It's like, I don't know, but I knew there was a time when I couldn't not be a photographer.
Yeah.
There wasn't like a moment when I made the decision to be a photographer, but I knew then there was a point when I couldn't not be.
Yeah. And I think I probably spent all of my 20s denying that I was a cook, I was a chef, and that was the means by which I was going to articulate myself throughout life. I told myself I was going to be other things. I was going to be a writer, I was going to be an academic, I was going to be a whole bunch of stuff. I tried some of that, and then I went back to cooking. And here we are.
No, but I think a lot of people find that journey to going back, like for me, food has become much more part of my life after photographing wars for years, because I wanted something that was the opposite, and I wanted something...
The opposite of what?
War is food, I think.
I see.
That's my own theory. Because war is about destruction, it's about breaking up communities, it's about hatred.
But why did you want to go and photograph wars?
I didn't. I was angry with it, and I wanted to do something about it. So I've always said I'm never a photojournalist. I'm an angry man with a camera, and I would watch the stuff, and I was like, I want to do something, and I didn't know what else to do apart from tell stories. So I've always said I can't change anything, but I might be able to inspire the person that can. Okay. So that was always my drive. But I ended up photographing everything I hate. But I increasingly realised that food is the opposite, because as I say, where war destroys, food creates. Where war is about hatred, food is about love, expressing love.
Yeah.
And the two things really...
And it's also something that every single person on the planet can relate to in some way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always the moment of stillness. You can be in the middle of like shelling and chaos, and people when they eat, they have a moment of escape. It's the only time you see people smile. You know, people just relax for a moment. It takes them somewhere else. And it's interesting because one of the things that then comes up with that is that when I grew up in the sort of 90s and getting into food, it was such a macho culture. Yeah.
It's all women in there today.
Yeah, and I think I know who was providing the laughter as well. But that's, to me, is beautiful, because why should it be that culture of sort of, people shouting and throwing pans?
It's something, when I was training, when I was learning in London and abroad, I had more than my fair share of time in kitchens that were run by men who liked to shout. Some of them were outright abusive. And I was very, very conscious that this was not something that I wanted to perpetrate, and that there had to be another way of doing it. And so that's in part been the journey of Inva, and learning to run a kitchen of my own has been finding ways of motivating people and disciplining people and organising things without that kind of extreme hierarchical, abusive, whip-cracking environment.
Yeah, but I think it's because it does need people like you to show there's other ways of doing things, because there's this idea of success.
There's an interesting thing about the history of sort of restaurant cooks in Scotland. Scotland had the UK's only 2 Michelin star women until Claire Smith more recently. A lot of the sort of prominent restaurants in Scotland's past have been run by women. Yeah, I think there's also something about the value systems that are attached to the catering industry, to the hospitality industry, and the word, invoking the word industry is important there, because that is a whole different thing to just the cooking and the nurturing and what goes on in a day-to-day business. But your guides and the lists and the magazines and the value systems that they espouse are very much geared towards celebrating a particular kind of food and cooking, in which, broad brushstrokes, has been perpetuated by men over the last 150 years. It's about, a certain amount of perfectionism on the plate and a certain style of doing things, and it's tied in a big way, I think, to how kitchens are actually run.
And also this idea that you have to work ridiculous hours and
like a bravado kind of thing.
Being drunk.
I mean, some of that is just,
you have to work crazy hours.
But some of that is just about the amount of money that people are willing to pay for food, and how hard it is to actually make money in any kind of restaurant business without charging phenomenal amounts of money, which then starts excluding some of the people that you would like to welcome to your restaurant, and supporting 100% as much as possible all the people who are producing all these amazing things around here. So, it's a big part of it is just, making this thing hang together, but
it's also maybe
not doing it without compromise.
But it's a kind of mindfulness approach of just actually treasure each moment, treasure the ingredients, treasure your friends, the people that supply, producers, and do it for that day.
Yeah, and try and manage your own anxiety so it doesn't affect other people.
And too much.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Did I tell you this is my leek as well?
No.
This is my non-prize winning leek. So I dug it up
Your
this
only
morning.
leek?
No, I had 3. Where I was this year, I became a member of the Strathlachlan Leek Growing Association.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I had high hopes for my leeks, but at the last minute, just before judging, it got eaten by creatures, so I did not win.
So again, I get the
non-prize winning leek.
There is a quiet revolution happening in Scottish food. Scottish chefs are re-evaluating the way food systems work. Rather than use exotic ingredients flown halfway around the world or use the same produce all year, chefs like Pam, Roberta and James are trying to readdress that by working with local producers and seasonal ingredients. Soul Food Sisters are taking those same principles into community kitchens, and Andrew is re-educating people in lost skills. It's exciting to see and shows it is possible to provide healthy, affordable and environmentally friendly food. More than that, this revolution, with women at the forefront, is embracing a simpler, more holistic approach to not just the food, but also life. Mental health, community and sustainability are put ahead of profit. In a year when many of us are re-evaluating our priorities, Scotland is leading the way.